Go ahead.
Welcome, everyone. Thanks for being here. We're so excited to have Daniel. And I am going to turn it over to Lynn to read the mission statement.
Did Lynn just disappear?
Oh, no.
We're having extreme weather here too, so that might be why she's disappeared. If that's the case, then let me quickly find our mission statement and I can read it unless you see her coming back in. I don't want to do this. Let's see. Looking for the mission statement. Okay. Why don't you go ahead and introduce Daniel, and by the time that you finished, we should have Lynn back in here, which would be good. Is that okay? Okay,
sounds good. Well, I am incredibly excited to have Daniel here. I read his book and I just knew I needed to interview him if he was willing and able, and he is, thank goodness. I was extremely excited. So let me read Daniel's bio while we wait for Lynn to log back on. In January of 2017, while out to dinner in Boston for a business trip, Daniel sat next to a new coworker and their lives would change forever. As they started to get to know each other, Daniel started getting visions, pictures, and feelings that he did not completely understand. He had had this happen before, but when it did, he would just deliver the subtle message and did not think much of it. But this time it was different. It was much more intense and powerful. After about 45 minutes and many tears, they had no doubt that somehow his mate's deceased husband was with them in spirit. The messages her husband was relaying to her were spot on. Things Daniel could have never known about her and her family, and confirmed that he was very much still a big part of her life, even though he had passed away. Some of his messages were funny, yet some were more serious, but they were healing to her, and that made her feel so good. The messages were of pure love for her and for their children. It was awesome. Even after this, being a skeptic, Daniel still did not believe that it could be possible to speak to people who have passed away. Maybe he had gotten lucky and guessed all those things. After all, it was against everything he was ever taught. Growing up Catholic and then becoming born-again Christian in high school, people did not communicate with the dead. It was strictly forbidden. Daniel was taught in his Catholic elementary school that one could not even talk to God unless it was through a priest. Not only that, he thought that when we die, we go to heaven or hell, and that was it. After that night, he was on a journey to find out what this life really is all about, regardless of everything he was ever taught. This is exactly what he asks of you. Be skeptical, but be open-minded. Please check out Daniel John's new book, Why Are We Here? Lynn is on. Are you ready, Lynn?
I am. Sorry about that. I don't know where I disappeared to, but thank you, Carol, and thank you, Daniel, for coming. So our mission, Helping Parents Heal, is a nonprofit organization dedicated to assisting bereaved parents. Through support and resources offered, we aspire to help individuals become shining light parents, meaning a shift from a state of emotional heaviness to one of hopefulness and greater peace of mind. HPH goes a step beyond other groups by allowing the open discussion of spiritual experiences and afterlife evidence in a non-dogmatic way. HPH affiliate groups welcome everyone, regardless of religious or non-religious background, and encourage open dialogue. Attendance at this meeting is voluntary. We hope that participants will learn from and share with each other. Discussions here are confidential and not designed to replace traditional therapy or spiritual counseling. Helping Parents Heal offers a wide variety of speakers, allowing parents to learn about many possible ways to heal. This includes presenters covering progressive topics such as afterlife evidence and connecting with children who have passed. The views expressed by our guest speakers may or may not reflect the opinions of Helping Parents Heal leaders and members, So we ask that you take from their presentations whatever may benefit you personally.
Thank you, Lynn. And thank you, Daniel, for being here. I read Daniel's book, and here it is. And I absolutely loved it. Everything he said resonated with me. I just felt like my journey since my son passed away, I've been on a quest for answers, and everything that I have found, I read in Daniel's book. And it was just, I just loved it. So afterwards, I thought I have to reach out to him and ask him if he'll speak about his book. I'm going to pass it over to him in a moment. And when he's done speaking, I have some questions, but I'm going to, allow all of you to ask your questions, type it into the chat box. And then towards the end, we will open it up for those questions. Welcome, Daniel.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for being here.
And I read your book too, and I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Well, if you want to tell us about your beautiful book and, what inspired you to write it and just your story, it's amazing.
Yes, I mean, you pretty much, you guys pretty much nailed it, but it took about 2 years to write. I think it just, like you said, it was inspired. When people ask me what the book's about, I tell them that it's a book about life. It's a book about love. It's a book about understanding your purpose, finding forgiveness for others, and just kind of a book that helps you understand grief a little bit and helps you navigate on your path a little bit easier, especially after losing like a significant other. I do have a chapter about my dad in there, because when he passed, it, changed my life. I think we've all been through that. So, but I think the overall premise of the book, if I had to like summarize it, is it's all about love. And I think to me, from what I've learned in the last, 5.5 years since I had that experience in the restaurant with that woman, Deja, is that love is the only thing that we get to keep when we leave this world. It's the only thing, whether we receive it or give it, it's the only thing that's eternal. The money, the cars, the houses, all the other stuff, it goes away. It's temporary. Those are just my beliefs. But I really do firmly believe that love is what really matters. And so I cover that in the book. And at the end of the book, I have 5 testimonials from some people who had experienced some sessions with me. I do call them sessions now. So I do have a second book coming out in September, but instead of calling them readings, I call them sessions. And the second book will be all about mediumship and navigating grief. In fact, like the title I can't release yet, but it's going to be something along the lines of navigating grief and understanding mediumship. But in the beginning of this book, I share about how I discovered my gifts and how I realized that life is more than like what we think it is. After that, in the middle chapters, I help people understand what I've learned about meditation and spirit guides and reincarnation and even religion and mediumship is one of the biggest chapters in the book. And then at the end, I go more towards forgiveness and life purpose. And I actually have a chapter in there about diet and how things that we do in our life can help raise our vibration, which helps us put us in a better spot or better availability for spirit communication, whether it be universe, source, Allah, God, your loved ones, spirit. To me, it's all the same thing on the other side. There's only one energy, but our loved ones are a part of that energy. And then again, at the end, they talk about my dad, and then there's testimonials. So it's kind of a general summary of the book.
Thank you. And I love how you say it's all about love, because that's what we always say in Helping Parents Heal. It's all about love. You said in your book, selflessness is what leads to our highest path. Helping others is most important, which I love that, because we believe helping others is just also healing for us. And so you also talked about, when the very first time that it was powerful and you felt like your friend's husband was there. Would you say that that was something so many mediums start to say when they were little? They noticed that they had, they immediately saw spirit, and sometimes they thought it was natural. Was this pretty new to you? I know you said that it happened previously, but when did it really start for you where you started thinking, okay, what's going on?
Yeah, it was actually that moment. Now, I describe to people that, at least for me, with my mediumship journey, I've just given people advice randomly, and I feel like it comes from source or spirit or God or whatever you want to call it. And I get guided. I always have. In fact, after I kind of came out as a medium, I had people reach out and say, hey, 8 years ago at the gym, you told me about my wife had a miscarriage, and you told me, this and this, and it all came true, and I never told you. And then now that you post this, I just want to let you know that you really helped me. And some people came out of the woodwork from years ago when I never really knew I was doing it. Kind of, to me, again, religion aside, is like Jesus at the well, knowing things. And I'll share a quick story on that. So to answer your question, up until that point at 37, I still haven't. I never seen the spirit, and I've never heard with my ears a spirit. They come to me via thoughts and impressions. So I guess it's a little atypical. I'm not like other mediums in that my whole life I've seen them at the end of the bed, or, I have never seen one. But for anyone who's watched the sessions, and I've done over 2,500, they're accurate, they're powerful, and it doesn't come from me. That glory goes to, I call it God, but you can call it whatever you want, but that glory goes to something greater than we can understand. I'm just the medium, which is the in-between. We're all, in my opinion, mediums. But it's not just communicating with loved ones. I was at an event in Charlotte. I was walking up the stairs to my book signing, and there was a woman, and I said, are you open to, can I share something with you? And again, sometimes it's awkward, and I don't share it too much in public. But she said, yeah, what's going on? I was like, what, are you open for me to share this? And she said, yeah, what's up? And I was like, are you pregnant? And she says, and I don't mean to offend you. She said, yes. I was like, is it going to be a girl? She said, yes. I was like, are you doing January? And she's like, yes. She's like, you're kind of freaking me out a little bit. I'm like, if you're okay with this, I wanted to help. I wanted to share some information with you. I said, are you really close with your mom? And again, this is just kind of from what I remember. I'm sure it wasn't exactly like this. And she's like, I'm really close to my mom. I go, the baby's going to be big. Is the dad must be tall? And she's like, oh yeah, he's 6'3". I go, are you still rubbing the oils on your stomach? And she's like, I am, every night. And I was like, I need you to stop worrying about the baby. This is your first one, right? And she's like, yes. And I was like, will you not stop worrying? The baby's going to be great. The baby's going to be healthy. It's going to be big. But your mom's going to help you out, and the oils are working, and the baby's going to be just fine. I want you to stop worrying. And she just almost started crying. And I don't know where, I don't know that. I don't know where the information's coming from. And there was a whole bunch of other stuff that came through that was accurate. So at the end, I gave her a free copy of my book, and I said, I'm praying for you. And she said, she was kind of like, who are you? I'm like, I'm just a voice of, I said, I'm just someone God chose today to help you along your path, or something like that, which is almost literally the definition of medium. And she just was so thankful. In fact, she messaged me a couple of weeks later and said, everything was spot on. And she validated one thing that she couldn't, but 99% of it was validated there. So the reason I tell that story is for the people that are on here. It's not all about communicating with your loved ones in spirit. Sometimes God or source or universe will use all of us at certain times as instruments or conduits of information that we may not be privy to, that is always helpful. That had nothing to do with anyone who passed away, but that information came from somewhere, and I didn't know it, but it was almost 100% accurate. So I give that credit and glory. I call it God, but again, because I know we're non-religious here, you can call it whatever you want, but something greater than we understand. And that's a little bit more about what I do. It's not just communication with spirit. That's part of it. But I think if we all raised our vibration by the things I mentioned in the book, love and compassion and forgiveness and giving to the poor and not judging others and things like that, we raise our vibration, allowing us to connect to the spirit world easier.
Thank you. And is there anything in particular, I won't talk about, a few of the things that you changed prior to these things happening, but anything that you actually feel that opened up that portal more? I mean, besides, the things that helped you raise your vibration. We here believe that we can all connect to our kids, but not being a medium. I mean, I think mediums have a special gift, but I believe we can all connect. But is there anything in particular that you felt like contributed to suddenly opening that portal? Any changes in your life?
Yeah, and I will mention it. And sorry if you guys get mad at me, but I'm a straight shooter and I'm honest. But in 2017, for me, I quit gambling. 5 years earlier, I was out raking my leaves, and I heard a voice say, "If you quit gambling, you have a gift." Back then, I didn't know what the heck it was, but when I quit gambling, that's when all this stuff started happening. In 2018, I stopped watching pornography. It was something that was an issue for me. And then in 2021, I actually stopped drinking alcohol to excess. So, and these all came via impressions, the same way that spirit communicates with me. And they told me I can have one drink, and then I switched to NA or soda. I've done that for a year now. Along with those things, giving up some vices, meditation, prayer, acupuncture, going on walks. We started a nonprofit organization to help the homeless. So giving back to the poor, all those things allowed me to raise my vibration to be better at mediumship. And I, unlike you, and I think it's okay to agree to disagree, I believe we're all mediums. Medium to me, by definition, is just the halfway between two extremes. I do believe it's a gift, but also a natural ability of all of us to communicate with the spirit world. A lot of parents that I've given sessions to, some of them can hear their children. Some of them can literally feel their touch, all five senses. You're just a halfway point between the spirit world and the human world, and that's medium. Even if you're delivering a message to yourself, you're just the in-between, the physical person that's actually delivering the message. And if you look up the definition of medium, some of the definitions, which I share in my second book, are a means in which information is communicated. I mean, literally, so a radio is a medium between the radio station and the human ear. So we all can be a conduit of source or universe or spirit. So yeah, those things that you do, well, like it's almost like a dial, like a radio dial. And the more you do all those things mentioned before, which I won't repeat them, allows you to be at a higher vibration energetically, which will allow you to pick up on subtle impressions from spirit. I'm going through a personal experience right now, a lot of crazy things in my life. I've gotten so many signs that things are supposed to happen the way, and it's not the way I want it to happen, but I'm listening to what spirit and God is telling me, and I'm doing it. I don't know how it's going to pan out, but the more you raise that vibration, the more you're able to connect to spirit. And the reason I do what I do is because people who are in grief and they've lost a loved one, especially a child, their vibration lowers because of the grief. And then as we work our way through the process of grief to hopefully the acceptance stage, we slowly raise our vibration to be able to connect to our loved ones on a very, very high level. I had a session with maybe even someone here tonight that they said they can actually hear their child, literally, and I've never heard them with my ears and I've never seen them with my eyes, but I've had hundreds, literally, of parents tell me that they can see their children. They've got glimpses of them. They can hear them and feel them on extremely high levels. And to me, that's just a sign that we are eternally connected, especially to our children.
Thank you for that. I know that we all love to hear that we all have, some mediumship abilities, if nothing else, just for our kids, just to be able to hear our kids. You also said you're a Reiki master and you love us, you've studied astrology. Do you want to talk a little bit about the benefits of Reiki and what Reiki actually is?
So to me, they're just words, right? And again, I hope that this is okay, but I'm a big Bible guy. It doesn't have anything to do with religion, but I believe in Acts 9, when Ananias was asked to heal Paul from his blindness, it's Reiki, it's hand healing, it's just energy. Certain people have certain abilities. It's almost like, for instance, baseball. Some people are really good at it naturally. Other people have to practice really hard to get good at it. Hand healing and energy healing is the same way. You can go get your Reiki master or your level 1 or level 2. To me, it's just a title. There are massage therapists who aren't Reiki masters who actually shift energy with their hands and they don't even know it. So I believe we all have some sort of gift with energy healing, some more than others. I don't really practice Reiki that much, but what that did at that time in my life was open up my mind, because I was a huge skeptic about, when I went through I'm a natural skeptic, and I'm a left-brained kind of guy. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to hold my hands over someone and I'm going to heal them. Okay. So I did it to help my belief. And when I was doing it, I could feel and sense things that I couldn't understand, and they were accurate. And again, that glory goes to God or source, because we are just conduits, we're mediums. As far as the astrology, it's a cool, if whoever has not read the book, there's a cool story about that in my in chapter 2, so I don't want to ruin that. But I don't really do astrology. That was to me just kind of an entry into the world of okay, the rocks in the sky and the sun and the way they move really has something to do with my life. Yeah, it does. And I've had astrology readings. My uncle's a master astrologer, and he's kind of guided some friends of mine, and I've seen how accurate it could be. So to me, those two things were just a time that I took those classes both right when I first started, to open my mind to something beyond for the 37 years, which I just thought was this human black and white, this is life. And that's when I started to open up and okay, maybe there's more to this kind of stuff. So.
Well, thank you for that. And also, I read about a dream visit that you had, and it's and so many of us have had dream visits, and I see them make posts. Is it real? Is it, my imagination? But I don't want you to ruin the story, because I want people to read your book, even with what we're going to talk about tonight. There's just so much information. I loved it. If you could talk a little bit about that validation with your dream visit from your grandma, that would be really awesome.
Yeah, I don't even care. I mean, not that I care, but I mean, I don't think it'll ruin the story, but I would like to share that. And then first of all, dreams, everyone here, from my belief and my understanding, they are often 100% real. When they are strong, they're vivid, they're emotional, seem almost more real than real life. That's a sign that they're real. If there's trauma or negativity in the dream, it is often your heart healing. Now, that just seems like, oh, that's nice and convenient. But in reality, dreams, I really firmly believe, especially when they're very strong, are very, very real. So trust those. Again, like the Reiki and the astrology, when I first, started looking into this stuff that's beyond the human understanding, I had a dream, very vivid dream of my grandmother. And she came to me in my dream. I said, Grandma, let me know something that I'll know that this is really you. And she said something to me, and she said, tell your mom I know about the teapot. And I was like, what? Like, okay. And then you wake up and you, whatever. So my mom comes over the next day, and, I was still a huge skeptic. So this was very, very important to me. And I asked her, and she said, I don't know what that means. And I was like, Mom, like, you really have to know what it means. I mean, it was really real. It was Grandma, like, please. And she's like, no, I'm really, really sorry. And, my mom had a stroke when she was 44, and she's not really 100. She's like probably 90% back to normal. But anyway, about 5 minutes later, now I was really upset, because to me, I needed that validation. I needed it. And she's like, well, I did just change my password. And I was like, what'd you change it to, Mom? Like, I remember thinking, like, I don't care, and I love my mom. And she's like, I changed it to Teapot 99 last week. And I was like, you didn't just think about that when I just said Grandma told you she knows about the teapot? And she's like, well, yeah, I didn't think about that. And it's really funny you say that, because I was sitting at the kitchen table, which is where her and my grandma sat all the time. And I was looking around the kitchen. I saw the fridge, and I saw the coffee pot. And she goes, and I saw a teapot. And I was like, oh, I'll make my password teapot. And like, there's millions and millions of items. So it was my grandma's way to let my mom know that she was with her in that moment, that she had a special moment. And so I went I even have goosebumps telling you the story right now, but I went in the back of the house, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. It really was my grandma. She communicated with me. There's no way I would know that. This is real. And I'm like, but, because again, wow, I got like goosebumps right now. And I was like, Grandma, just give me a feather and I'll believe it. Give me the feather and I'll know it's true. And I go back, and my mom is sitting there in the chair, and I'm in awe. And my mother had gotten my daughter these little glasses with these little feathers on it. And there was a little feather just sitting there floating. And I was like, Mom, do you see that? And she's like, yeah, it's a little feather. I'm like, I just asked Grandma to validate the dream by giving me a feather. And then ever since then, I have had dreams of my dad where I literally just cry. I even get emotional thinking about it, and we just hug. And sometimes we just have really good dreams. So the more you raise your vibration, the more you trust it, your loved ones will visit you in your dreams. And from what I understand, your brain gets to a vibration or a certain type of frequency that allows you to relax the ego and the mind, and helps you connect to the spirit world and your loved ones on a very high level. So please trust your dreams, especially when they're good, they feel real, and there's a lot of emotional connection.
Thank you. So see, everyone, those visits are real. Those visits are real. And I'm glad you validated yours for them, because it's important, because as humans, we tend to discredit everything and start to become a skeptic. So I loved it when you talked about that. I really did. I also loved when you said that the earth is our classroom, because that's what we believe. We believe we are here to learn lessons. So can you talk a little bit about soul plans? Because I know you mentioned that in your book.
Yeah, from my understanding, and if you haven't read like Robert Schwartz, Your Soul's Plan, Your Soul's Gift, or like Michael Newton's books, I think it's Your Soul's Journey or Journey of Souls. There's so many. And again, I have a whole list of books that I've read on my website that I highly recommend. But from what I understand and from my experience, we are souls living in a human experience. So, you're not Lucy. You're living life as Lucy, but as a higher vibration or a soul or a part of God, a vibration or a spark of source, of universe. That's why I believe and again, not to get, Psalms 82 and John 10:30, when Jesus mentions I and the Father are one, we all have part of the Father in all of us, whatever religion you are, or even if you're agnostic or atheist, there's a part of this energy that lives within you, and it's living as, for me, like living as Daniel. And so the more you kind of separate yourself, the true you, and one of the exercises, close your eyes, or don't even have to close your eyes, but say hello in your mind. Say to everyone who's on here, just say hello. So the real you is who said hello, and the ego you is who heard it. So there is two separate things. So when you say hello in your mind, everyone hears it. Hello. You say it. Hello. That is you. So the best way to describe it, and there's a great book. I can't think of the book right now. I'll think of it in a second. Oh man. I'll think of it after, or remind me, and I'll tell you it. But he kind of goes through and explains that you're just this eternal being who literally, and against human logic, lives forever. There's no beginning, no end. It's literally forever. It's illogical because in human mind, there has to be a creation and there has to be a beginning and an end. I really firmly don't believe that. I believe it literally is just eternal, never ending. And so the simple terms is, from my understanding, is you're a soul. You came here to live life as the ego, as the body. And then when your soul completed its purpose here, again, for a lot of our loved ones here who have already transitioned back home, their mission was complete. Now, often speaking to a group of parents, it's awkward because well, wait, no, it's my child. They're not supposed to leave before me. From my experience, and don't hate me too much, they've always told me that when it's our time to go, it's the soul's choice. It's often pre-planned, and it's our time to go. And if we're still here and you're hearing me and I'm speaking to you, our mission is not complete. And I had a couple sessions last night with parents who their children left legacies, and they're continuing to spread more love. One of them was a woman who has given away 12,000 bracelets of hope to people. 12,000. So her child's passing is attributed to 12,000 people donating the bracelet that literally talks about hope and positivity. That's just one person affecting tens of thousands of lives. So when you realize that life is more than what we see here, and it's an eternal concept that's beyond our understanding, and you kind of step back and recognize that you're living life as something that was kind of already planned, life takes on a whole new meaning. And I often think throughout my daily experiences, especially with my children, hey, I'm not going to be able to do this forever. With my mom, who's still around, even with friends and family and every experience I have, even the negative ones, the ones that don't feel so good, I recognize that it's an opportunity for my soul to grow, to learn, and to choose love. And I talk about that a lot in my book. But, if someone cuts you off or says something mean to you, it's a little bit more difficult to choose love than when someone smiles at you or does something nice for you. But we as humans, I think, can benefit by doing it equally across the board. And that's one of the challenges, I think, in the human understanding. So when the body passes, our souls exist, your loved ones exist. I've seen it happen literally thousands of times, to where someone in the spirit world connects to someone here in the human world just to remind them that they're with them and that life goes on forever. So it's a little bit of a benefit to go through your daily experience to know that there's a bigger part of you that never dies. And actually, sometimes it drops the fear of death. And a lot of parents I've spoken to that have lost a physical loss of their children, they don't fear death anymore because they know they'll be reunited energetically. But I will tell you that you're here for a reason. And part of that reason, I would say 85 to 90% of my sessions with parents who've lost their children, physical loss of their children, have a great responsibility in memory of, or to do something because of the way or the how or the where or the details around their child's passing. So please trust and know that life is eternal, and that when you leave this understanding, you just go into another mansion or another room or another reality. And it's just and a lot of spirit has told me that death is not one, this wasn't a book, but So Spirit has told me that it's the easiest thing that they've ever done in their life, and the most beautiful. It's almost like the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, but a lot of people fear death, but it's actually the most beautiful experience in your life. And Spirit has told me that, or I think I read in a book that the Spirit told the medium, their whole life they feared death, and then when they passed away, it was the best thing that ever happened to them. And in the human thing, it's like, no, this is what I know, this is what I understand. But when you get to that understanding, the fear of death goes away, because you realize it's just a transition into something more beautiful. And our loved ones who have passed before us are in that state, no matter their passing. And I know I've had sessions I had a session about a few months ago with a woman who lost both of her only two sons. And they came through, I got emotional. I usually try to do my best, and they shared things with her that just literally allowed her to just walk with her shoulders back a little bit more. And they're great. And I think, was it both of them? Well, at least one of them passed by their own hand. And they're okay. They're not in some eternal place where they're burning, or, some of the souls. And I know I'm going off on a little bit of tangent, but I'm being guided to talk about this because I'm sure there's a handful of who are on here where the passing was the responsibility of the person who passed, and they're not in a bad place. Sometimes there's regrets. Oftentimes there's not. Sometimes it was their way to return home, and the way that it happened may have saved 10 other people from doing that same thing, because their purpose here is stronger or important or special in a specific way. So please know that, and this is just from my experience and my belief, there's no like burning, fiery, eternal damnation that our souls go to and then we burn there forever. I personally haven't experienced that. I'm not ignorant to the fact that it can't be possible, but from my interpretation of scripture and all the 2,500 sessions I've done and the hundreds of books I've read, never one bad experience of mediumship, and never one spirit that even hinted towards anything like that. Now, that being said, if a spirit was there, I wouldn't know about it. But every time someone, or 95% of the time someone comes to me and wants to connect with their loved one, they come through, and they're great, and they're happy, and they want you to be happy, and they want you to fulfill your purpose. Because again, I'll tell you, if you're breathing and you're listening to me right now, you have a purpose here, a very individual, specialized, beautiful purpose. In chapter 14 of my book, I try to explain an exercise where we can all find that purpose. For me, it was mediumship, helping other people heal and recognize that we come from something greater and our loved ones don't die. That's my purpose. And it makes me feel good to let people know that. There's people that think I'm the devil, demonic, scam artist, whatever. I don't care, actually, because 99% of the communications and 100% of everything I've experienced is pure love. But when you find your purpose, and a lot of you already have, especially from the result of what happens from your experience and the tragic experience you had to go through, there are a large amount of parents who I've had sessions for who are awkwardly in a better place than they were before their child passed, spiritually, energetically, and it takes time, and everyone heals at their own pace. But I'll tell you one thing, and I'm not blowing smoke, this organization and being part of this group and meeting a lot of people through this group, I think this is probably the best thing that could happen for all of us, to be able to talk in this type of level and to recognize that there's something greater. So I know that was a long answer, but I hope that helped and made sense to a lot of you.
Yes, thank you so much. And I agree with you. I think probably no one in this meeting fears death. And that is liberating in itself, because I was deathly afraid of death years ago. And ever since Tyler passed away, that's a gift he left me. So I know that when I read the book, I loved the portion where you talk about religion and mediumship. And you kind of just said that, how some people think you're evil. And would you touch on, because you really explained parts of the Bible, and again, it's not a religion, I'm not asking for religious, but there are a lot of different religions that are told that if we communicate with our kids, we try to reach out to them, it's wrong, it's evil. And I loved what you had to say in your book. And I loved how you kind of interpreted, and you had even said there was a few things in there that was a contradiction. I don't know if you know what I'm referring to, where you had said, okay, so could you touch on that? How you don't believe, I don't believe that it is in any way evil to be able to connect with our kids or to reach out to a medium?
It's a great question. And I'm assuming, even though the question was asked, that most of us are past that. But if we're not, and if there's a couple,
Well, there's some new people in here
Yep.
that I've in fact even seen a question in here while you were speaking related to this.
oh, I knew there was a good reason you asked that, Carol. I trust you. The bird's eye, so this is a big topic for me. So I'm going to give a long answer. I apologize, but hopefully it'll help. I'm going to give the short version though. About 3 months after I came out as a medium, I got an email from a former coworker who went off in a nice way. I have the email still about how I'm demonic and I'm not really communicating with their children. It's just evil entities trying to fool me. And I remember exactly where I was sitting. I was in Utica, New York, at a restaurant eating dinner with a friend. And I read through this email and I got like sick and whatever. And I immediately was like, I started looking up the scripture she was telling me. Now, I was raised Catholic and I was saved in 9th grade, and I read the Bible here and there, but I didn't know some of the scripture in the Hebrew Bible. And it's all in the Hebrew Bible. And there's nothing in the New Testament. There are some mistranslations and things that people will use, but I'll talk about that in a second. So I went through and read all the stuff that then I talk about. By the way, in the first book, I talk about religion as a whole, and then I go into Christianity. In the new book, it's all Christianity and mediumship, targeted specifically because there's over 2 billion people who claim to be Christian. And so I think it's a big topic here, especially in the West, United States. So I started looking at all those verses and I was like, oh, I got to stop. It's against God. It says it right in his book, in the word. And then not even a minute later, I was like, well, wait a minute. I've done like 50, 75 sessions to this point, and it's all been like love and healing and blessings, and people are going back to church and like love. It's just, you guys have witnessed some of the sessions with other mediums and with myself. It's beautiful. Helps you feel great. That's not the devil or demonic. So I was like, all right, well, what's going on here, God? And I'm praying and praying. And I was like, okay, well, let me just reread the Bible. So I ended up buying the audio version of the Bible. And I listened. It took me 3.5 weeks. It was 40 hours from Genesis to Revelation. Listen to the whole thing. And I was like, wow, okay, so let me try to understand this. And then it took like months of books and prayer, lead me to this book, lead me to this book. And so here's a bird's eye view, especially not to go in the religion. And so that was from the whole kind of religious aspect of, but specifically towards like Christianity, because it's the world's biggest religion, especially again here in the West, over 2 billion people. And if you have family and friends that told you that, they're probably Christians. Okay. So let me explain to you where the ignorance, and I don't mean that in a mean way, but ignorant means lack of knowledge. So that's not, people think that's a terrible word, but it means just lack of knowledge comes in. All the scripture in Deuteronomy, Leviticus, Kings, and Chronicles is all in the Hebrew Bible. It's actually not in the Christian Bible, which is the New Testament. So it's actually a Jewish law that these Christians are preaching, which I think is funny. And then they'll say, well, Jesus said he's here to fulfill the law. Well, which law? The commandments? So in those books, here, there's different ways to look at it. In those books, they tell us to stone our children to death. If a woman and man are caught cheating, they'll be stoned to death. If a woman is menstruating, you're supposed to stay with her because she's impure for 7 days. Women, there's ancient purity laws that are actually kind of disgusting. They don't apply anymore. And I do believe when Jesus came here, non-religion, Jesus, guys, was, in my opinion, and tell me if I'm going too far in the religious aspect of it, but he was non-religious. He was against the Pharisees. He was preaching and performing miracles on the Sabbath, talking to taxpayers and women and lepers. This is like against Hebrew law, unclean. This guy was unclean. So he was actually against religion. Then we started a religion around him, when I really think we just need to follow his teachings. And in my opinion, we pedestalize Jesus when we really need to pedestalize his teachings. To me, that's dogma. The first commandment is there's only one God. In Mark 10:18, it literally, they're saying, oh, Jesus, you're God. No, there's only one God, and that's the Father. He's actually deferring to that. But then people go in John, it says, I am the way, I am the truth, and I am the light. In Aramaic, which 99% of theologians believe that Jesus spoke, there is no I am subject translation. It's impossible to say it. Many theologians have explained that, but Bible still exists that way. So number one, all anti-medium scripture, which do exist, they're all in the Hebrew Bible. All of it. Jesus never once spoke against mediumship. Never once. The definition of medium, according to different, and I cover this in my second book, is halfway between two extremes, the means in which information is communicated. So when you take those definitions, Jesus was a medium. Paul was a medium. Moses was a medium. It's just a halfway point between the spirit world and the human world. But people hear the word medium, they see it in Leviticus and Deuteronomy, and they think, oh, that's the devil, that's evil. It's just pure ignorance. In Matthew 17, Jesus goes up on a mountain and talks to Moses and Elijah. It's in the Bible, Matthew 17:3. That literally makes Jesus a medium. He was speaking to the dead. And then so some people will say, well, that was Jesus. He's God. So, well, in John 14:12, it says we're all supposed to be like Jesus because he's going back home. He's like, I'm had enough of this. I'm going back home. I came here to help you guys. I told you what I told you. Now I'm going home. In 1 Corinthians 11:1, it says we're supposed to be imitators of Christ. So we're supposed to be like this man, regardless of religion. This has nothing to do with religion, but I really love my Bible. So if you really look at scripture, the Hebrew, the Aramaic, and even the Greek, Jesus never once talked anything against mediumship. So it depends on what someone says to me, and I don't fight people on it, because most people that say it are just, unfortunately, they're ignorant and they lack information, and there's really not much you can do about it. They'll use Acts 16, where there's a woman chasing around Paul and Silas who had this evil spirit, and she was communicating with the dead, and Paul removed it. Well, she was a slave, and she was being used for her gift for money. So Paul removed her gift, and she wasn't able to do it anymore. So the slave owners let her go. Now she's free. But people will use that as, oh, that's the devil. Paul saved that. Well, it was wrongdoing. So I always tell people, it's not about where you do it. It doesn't matter how you do it. It doesn't matter when you do it. It doesn't even matter what you do. It's why you do it. So if you're a medium who's trying to make money or be famous or try to screw people over, to my opinion, that's sin, that's devil, that's Satan, that's evil, that's rude, that's sinful, it's against God. But if you're a medium who's connecting people with their loved ones to help them reconnect and live a better life or find a relationship with God or whatever it may be, then it's a good thing. It's love. It's love. It's God is love, right? So it boils down to ignorance. A true Christian, now do you look on the definition of what Christian is? It's a follower of Jesus Christ. It's a follower of the teachings of Jesus. Actually, some dictionaries say Jesus didn't teach about mediumship. And actually, you can say he actually kind of did. Jesus communicated with the spirit world more than, and there's more spirit communication in that book. That's why I kind of laugh when someone says, oh, you're not supposed to do that. How do you think the Bible was written? In Galatians 1:11, Paul literally says in spirit, or says, what I am writing does not come from man. It doesn't come from anything I've ever learned. It comes from Christ or spirit. He literally says that. So Paul, who's the believed writer of at least a third, most likely half of the New Testament, didn't get it from himself. He wasn't taught. On the road to Damascus, when he was struck down, when Jesus had already been crucified, he came to him in spirit. So Paul was communicating to the dead. If Paul didn't communicate with the dead, we wouldn't have a Bible. If Moses didn't communicate with God, we wouldn't have the 10 Commandments. If Jesus didn't communicate with Moses and Elijah, and in John chapter 8, if anyone's known, you guys know, like, there's Reiki and there's all these things. Does anyone know John chapter 8, the Pharisees bring Jesus a woman who had committed adultery? Well, according to Deuteronomy 22:22, she should be stoned to death. So they're testing Jesus. What does he do? And it says it in the Bible. He's writing in the sand. What do you think he's doing? Has anyone ever heard of automatic writing, where you can write things from spirit? Has anyone experienced automatic writing? Well, automatic writing is in the Bible. Jesus is writing in the sand. Spirit or God or Moses or whoever is speaking to him, maybe his spirit guides, maybe spirit, is writing something probably in Aramaic that he can say. And what does he say? Okay, well, whoever hasn't sinned can throw the first stone. And each one, starting with the oldest to the youngest, puts down their stone. I even get emotional talking about it. And then he says, be on your way and don't sin anymore. So Jesus in John 8 actually defies and goes against Hebrew law. So, and that's the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more. But the cool thing is, the woman that wrote me the email, she put me on a mission to be that medium who knows the Bible in a way to help people understand that it's not demonic. It's beautiful. Spirit communication is one of the most beautiful things we can experience as human beings, because that's where we come from. It's like ET phone home. Like, hey, help me out here. How often do we pray, right? How often do Christians pray? All the time. But when God talks back, it's, oh no, it's the devil. But here's the thing. There's no separation in the spirit world. Your loved ones, Michael, Archangel Michael, God, Jesus. Matthew 28:20 says Jesus is never without us. He's not left. We're all in the same boat, like Zach Brown says. We're just in a different reality or a different mansion. John 14:2 says, my Father's house has many mansions. We're in a different mansion right now. But communicating with that, with home, with God, with love, with source, with spirit, your loved ones, is the most beautiful. I've experienced it over 4 years. It's the most beautiful thing and the most healing thing. But people will just read Old Testament. Oh, can't do this. Oh, got to stone my kids to death. I mean, literally. So if we really looked at some of these scriptures word for word, I think we can be in trouble. But when you really look into the deeper meaning, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So I hope that helps you. You know, I've learned not to battle or get in arguments. You know, I try to send people love when they send me things. I don't know if anyone ever saw it, and I'm sorry if I'm talking, but hopefully this helps. I had a dream of a young man. I don't know if you guys heard the story. It's in my second book, but I feel inspired to share it with you. He came to me in a dream, and I was giving a session to his family, and I was getting all the details. And I woke up and I had all the details. And I was like, early in the morning, he goes, go up and write it down. So I go and I write it all down. I went back to sleep, and I wake up and I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this? I have like 18 things. They're all just, I don't know what to do with it. Put it on Facebook. It's like a thought. I was like, all right, well, I put it on Facebook. In 2 hours, we found the family. I called them while I was driving, and I was bringing my kids to the trampoline park. They're in the backseat watching their iPads, and I'm up front crying, giving a session while I'm driving to a family who needed to hear from their son. When I made that post, they validated 70 to 75% of the information right off the bat, names, details, numbers. And I actually posted it. There were hundreds of comments, thousands of reactions. This one gentleman put up Leviticus 19:31 and said, oh, this is the devil. And I wrote back and I was like, well, you know, because I have fun with them, because, you know, you have to have fun. And I love them because they just need a little bit of love. Everybody just needs love. And I said, oh, do you know, okay, did you want me to tell the family that it was the devil or the, you know, that was communicating with them and not their son? Or, you know, did you want to tell them that? And it didn't come across, you know, as funny on there. And I didn't mean to be funny because their family misses their son, but they were so excited because he was able to communicate with them. And then he started quoting more scripture. And I was like, you know, well, I kind of went a little bit, and I was like, well, you know, and I talked about some of the things I just spoke about. And then at the end, he's like, you're a wolf in sheep's clothing. You're a fraud. And, you know, and then he kind of crossed the line for me where I felt like it was a little inappropriate. And I just wrote, you know, you've crossed the line. And then at the end, I said, I love you. Right. So here someone's telling me I'm the devil and I'm a scam artist and all this stuff like that, and I'm demonic. And I tell them I love them. And because that's what Jesus taught me. And that's why I have this, you know, and it's telling about forgiveness. And I can't tell you how often that spirit tells me how important forgiveness is. So I've been told that throughout this journey, I'm going to have to deal with people like that so that I can love them and forgive them just as much as I would my own children. And to me, that is when we get to that point in the human reality where we can have that type of love for other people unconditionally. That's when we can leave our body and experience the bliss that we earn and to deserve. Now, I don't do it to get to that point. I just know, and from my experience, that when we leave this body, we have a life review. That's a lot of my research has shown that we get to see all the stuff we did wrong and all the stuff we did right. And our judge is not some guy in the sky with a staff and rod that sends you to heaven or hell. It's you. You're your judge. So I believe I have a camera on myself. I get emotional thinking about it. And when I leave this body, I get to witness myself and all the decisions I made. And did I make a love-based decision, or did I make a decision based in fear? And so I know when I get back to, you know, home or to the next realm and I'm done with this life, that I made as many loving choices as I could. And so when someone approaches me like that, I used to get very defensive and very hurt. Now I just know that they just come from a place of fear and ignorance, and all I need to do is give them love. So if someone gives you a hard time talking to a medium, don't spend energy trying to convince them. Don't say, oh, I had this amazing session and it was so accurate. They're like, no, that was the devil. What is the devil? What is demonic? To me, those words are just a vibration. They're just a lower energy. To me, pornography, getting drunk, judging other people, hating other people, being jealous of other people. That's Satan. That's demonic. It's not some guy with a pitchfork who's going to burn you forever. They're just energies. For me, heaven and hell aren't places. They are places. They are perceptions. They're energies. They're a state of being. You can be in heaven literally right here on earth. And again, I feel like I want to congratulate a lot of people in here. I feel like you're in more of a heavenly place than you ever thought you would be, even considering what you've been through with your experiences. So if you run into someone that tells you that, just, okay, no worries. I actually did I tried to be funny, but TikTok about, a Christian who's telling me that I'm demonic and all this stuff. And I do a little parody like, oh yeah, oh, it's the devil. Oh no, you don't understand. It's actually a beautiful thing. And so watch it, you get a kick out of it, because you just have to kind of send them love. Or if they say, I've actually had a parent come to me and said that someone in their church told them that because their child had taken it upon themselves, that they're somewhere in a bad place. And it was up to them to save their own life. And I just was like, wow. Now that's not a typical thing, but her person came through and it was a great thing. So I try not to judge. And I will tell you this, aside from all the scripture and all the things we talked about, if someone does say that, a true Christian wouldn't say those things. A true follower of what Jesus taught would never say such a thing, that God doesn't approve of that, or that's not right. That's literally against everything Jesus taught. That's judging, that's condemning, that's hatred, that's evil, that's fear. It's all about love. It's always been about love. And all my experiences I've ever had with communicating with spirit, every single one is always about love. And I'd say 99% of people, there's always a couple that, don't quite get it, but majority will walk away from a session with a better feeling and a better understanding, and knowing that their person is in a really good place. And so that is kind of the tip of the iceberg, and I hope it makes sense. But if someone approaches you or says something, just say, okay, no worries. I'm sorry you believe that. Don't get mad at them or try to convince them. Guys, I spent so much energy trying to convince. If someone would come at me, I'm like, no, it literally, did you not read that part? Or did you see that? Like, did you read that version of it? And the more I do that, or the more I did that, it just took energy away from me. So if you believe me and if you trust me and I'm just not blowing smoke, please know it's completely okay to communicate with your loved ones, to go to a medium. But I do tell people, last thing, and then I'll shut up, is before you go to a medium, I encourage you to pray first. To God, to Allah, to source, to universe, whatever you want to. Let the universe guide you to the right medium, or even if you need a medium. I'm going to really quick. There was a woman who reached out to me and she said, my son told me not to go to a medium. And I was like, well, don't go to a medium then. So I said, your son's passed? Yes. Well, why are you reaching out to me if your son's already talking to you? You don't need me. And that's probably why he's telling you not to. So she's like, okay, you're right. But she would follow and watch other people's sessions and she would get a lot of healing from that. Doesn't she book an appointment with me? I saw it come through and I knew her name because she was one of those people who messaged me a lot. And long story short, she emailed me and said, hey, I booked an appointment with you. My son told me not to go to mediums, but I was thinking about you, and his song came on the radio. Now, who am I? This is a mother who lost her son. And I said, okay, if you really think so. The session was terrible. Her husband was upset. He ended up, and I'm not a mean, aggressive person at all, but I ended up in the session was very forward with her and patient, and I'm not like that at all. And I didn't really think much of it, but it wasn't a very good session. And she emailed me a couple of weeks later and expressed her disappointment. And I said back to her, so I'm sorry for your loss and I'm sorry for the experience. But, and I try not to say but after I'm sorry, because then it takes away the I'm sorry. Your son told you not to go to a medium. Why, I encourage you to reach out to him yourself. She goes, I don't want my money back, but my husband's upset, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, listen, I'm sorry for your loss, but your son must have made it clear because he wants to communicate with you directly. Now, that was one of the only times I've ever experienced that. So That was one time in 4 years. But I'll tell you, if you feel a connection with your loved one strong enough to where you don't need a medium, you don't need to go to a medium. If you feel like it and it's okay and you pray about it and a medium comes up on your page, or look for signs, then it's completely okay. But I ask you to pay attention, because there are times I've actually reached out to a medium or to a psychic in times I shouldn't have, and I was given wrong information. I don't say that to scare you. The reason for sharing those couple stories with you is pray about it first. Ask for guidance from your loved one in spirit, from God, from your source, whatever it is. And then if you feel compelled to and it feels right, book an appointment with a medium and you'll have a great experience. And pick. I always, in the second book, and there's a great book called The Medium Explosion, if you guys haven't read that, it kind of teaches you on how to pick the right medium and make sure that the medium is not a fraud, and make sure they're not just doing it for money. And you could feel the energy of the person. You can know, 1 John 4:1 talks about testing the spirit. By looking at a person and feeling into their energy, whether they're doing it for the right reasons or they're just doing it for money or trying to screw people over for their money or do whatever else they're doing. Trust that guidance. So before you go see a medium, pray first. And pray has nothing to do with religion. Prayer is just a positive thought with an intention. Think about that, right? So if you pray to your child and you're like, hey, Chris, is it okay if I go see a medium? Yeah, that's a prayer. It doesn't have to be to God. It's a positive thought with an intention is considered a prayer. It doesn't have to do with any religion, so don't think about it that way. But if you reach up to spirit and they tell you it's okay or you feel like it's good, do it. Follow through with it. The main thing I want to share with you about your journey is to trust. If you get a random thought in your head or you see a time on the clock and it's your child's birthday and the song comes on next song on the radio and it's their favorite song, that's not a mistake. I've experienced those things more, and I'm sure a lot of you have here too. Trust those experiences because they are real. It's not you making it up. It is their way to communicate. They communicate with songs, numbers, visions, feelings, pictures, dreams, experiences. Last week, I ran into a man who looked exactly like my dad, and I sat and had lunch with him for 2 hours. And I felt like I was having lunch with my dad. I don't even know if he was real. I said to my wife, she thought I was nuts. I mean, he looked real, and he touched me a couple times. We shook hands. So, he had to be real, but I had lunch with my dad. He was even like my dad. So sometimes you'll look over and you're not crazy. It might be them just making your mind see them and miss them and remember that they're still with you. So trust all those things. I hope that helped you guys. I know it was a little bit of a tangent, but I hope it made sense.
Thank you so much. Yes, that was wonderful. I'd love to read a few things that people are saying. I just love you, Daniel John, with about 10 exclamation marks. Me too was someone else. Let me scroll down here. Heart, somebody put a heart. Absolutely captivating. Thank you so much. This guy is so interesting and smart. I would so love to hear from my youngest son. I'm sorry, he does gallery readings for he'll come back and do gallery readings, but tonight is about just a discussion. Thank you so much. Let's see here. I'm scrolling. I'm not very good with my computer here. This is amazing advice. Beautiful. This resonates with me so much. This is such a great way to look at life. Agree. I hate that our time is almost over. Can you come back? I love all of this. I need to hear more. Thank you, Daniel, for your time. Anyway, there's tons and tons, but I'll tell you, I'll just say to everyone, read his book. It's really amazing. It's amazing. I love it. And we are non-dogmatic here. I just wanted him to talk a little bit about the mediums and what some religions say, because I've had a couple of you have been reaching out to me in the chat asking about that because they've been told that it's evil. And so I did find that part of his book very interesting. So I wanted him to touch on that. We're not ever trying to change anyone's beliefs, but I can tell you from my experience that the first time I saw a medium and I was completely skeptical. I didn't believe in anything, but she changed my life. And I knew it was real because not only did, she only have my name and we paid in cash, but the things she said, even if she knew me and my son, it was incredible. And there's so much healing that occurs. So it looks like it's already 5 after, so we're out of time, but I'm going to ask everyone to unmute and thank Daniel. And honestly, read his book, Why Are We Here? It is amazing. It's amazing.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you.
Thank
You were
you.
with me, Daniel.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Daniel.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
B.
It was great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.